Imagine this scene.
Okay.
It's dawn. You're standing at a floor-to-ceiling window in a high-rise office, looking out over a sprawling city skyline that's just starting to wake up.
Got it. The classic CEO shot.
Exactly. You've got a cup of coffee in your hand. It's hot, but you're not drinking it. You're distracted.
Mm-hmm.
You are looking out at the buildings, but you don't really see them.
What do you see?
You see fog. Thick, rolling, impenetrable fog.
Yeah.
And you realize you have to drive a bus through that at 100 miles an hour.
Wow. Okay, that's a stressful image.
And it gets worse. Inside the office behind you, the pressure is mounting. The silence is just, it's heavy.
Right.
You know that artificial intelligence algorithms are quietly shifting your entire business model while you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
You know that quantum computing is on the horizon, threatening to break all your encryption standards.
Like huge existential threat.
And you know your competitors are pivoting to blockchain for their supply chains, and you're wondering if you're already too late.
That is a vivid and honestly a pretty terrifying image.
But is it that far from reality?
No, let's be real. That vertigo, that feeling of flying blind, that is the baseline state of modern leadership.
Exactly. And that brings us to the bold question we have to start with today.
Let's hear it.
In a world where 44% of skills become obsolete every 5 years, and where you are the first leader to ever operate in today, how do you chart a course when the map keeps changing?
That's the crux of it, isn't it? The goal isn't to predict the future perfectly. It's to be ready for whatever that future throws at you.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking a very special, expanded look at a topic that is absolutely critical for our listeners.
Especially for the students of the Dr. Sam Pack College of Business at Tarleton State University.
For sure. And for anyone out there exploring information systems, we aren't just skimming the surface today, we are going all the way to the bottom.
We are diving deep into Chapter 12 of Dr. Joseph H.Schuessler's 2026 text, Emerging Technologies and Innovation Strategy.
And the chapter is called Designing a Personal Plan for Technology Leadership.
Which is exactly what we're going to help you start doing today.
And before we get lost in that fog, I have a massive request. If you want to make sure you are positioned for a bright future, if you want these insider tips on navigating your career,
And you do.
you really do, take a second right now, literally right now, to like, subscribe, and share this deep dive with a fellow student. Don't let them miss out.
And check the description.
Yes, check the description because we have a ton of additional resources and links down there that will add huge value to what we're discussing today.
It's worth it. Today isn't just about theory. It's about building a survival kit for your career.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to turn you, our listeners, from passive students of technology into active strategic leaders.
And to do that, we have to talk about navigating a world defined by 4 scary letters.
VUCA, VUCA.
VUCA. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
It sounds like a bad cough drop, doesn't it? Or maybe a generic villain organization in a spy movie.
It does have that ring to it. But it actually started as a U.S. military term.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was coined to describe the landscape after the Cold War.
Okay, so connect the dots for me. What does the Cold War have to do with my IT career?
Well, think about the Cold War for a second. It was incredibly dangerous, sure.
Right. High stakes.
But it was stable. It was predictable in a weird way. You knew who the enemy was. You knew where the Soviet Union was on a map.
It was a bipolar world. Us versus them.
Exactly. The rules were sort of understood. You built a bigger tank, you won. It was a game of known variables.
Right. It was checkers. Maybe complicated checkers, but checkers.
I like that. But then the Cold War ends, and suddenly the threat isn't one big red blob on a map anymore.
It's everywhere.
It's decentralized terror cells, it's cyber warfare from unknown actors, it's rogue states, sudden economic shifts. The whole game changed.
So it became volatile and uncertain.
Completely.
Yeah.
The Army literally had to scrap their entire doctrine because the old maps didn't match the new territory.
And the tech world looked at that and said, hey, that sounds like my Tuesday.
Precisely. Because in a VUCA world, cause and effect aren't friends anymore. They broke up.
Ah, I like that.
You can't just say, if I do X, Y will happen.
Right.
In a complex system, if you do X, Y might happen, or Z might happen, or the whole server might melt down because of an API dependency you didn't even know existed.
Okay, so let's break down these 4 horsemen of the tech apocalypse, because I feel like people use VUCA as a buzzword without knowing what it actually means for their 9 to 5.
Yeah, let's make it real.
Start with volatility.
The V.
Volatility is the speed of change. It's not just that things change, it's that they change violently and fast. The nature and the dynamics of change are unpredictable.
Give me a business example.
Think about the supply chain during the pandemic.
Oh, boy.
One day, you have a steady supply of microchips. The next day, auto manufacturers are shutting down entire factories.
Because a boat got stuck in a canal.
Or a virus shut down a port on the other side of the world. One small event causes these massive, violent swings in the system. That is volatility. Okay, so uncertainty, the U. How is that different from volatility?
Uncertainty is about the lack of predictability. It's when you have the data, but you don't know if that data is going to remain true. You can't forecast.
So it's not about speed, it's about clarity.
Exactly. For example, will regulators in the U.S. ban TikTok?
A question everyone is asking.
Right. Will the EU pass a new AI Act next month that changes how we have to build our products? You can't calculate the probability with any confidence. You're operating in the dark.
Okay, that makes sense. Next up, complexity, the C.
Complexity is the sheer number of interconnected variables. It's the butterfly effect on a global scale.
Unpack that a bit.
In the old days, a business was a hierarchy. You built a factory, you ran the factory, you sold the widgets. It was relatively self-contained.
You could draw it on a whiteboard?
You could.
Yeah.
Now, your business relies on AWS servers in Virginia, code written by a contractor in Ukraine, chips manufactured in Taiwan, customer service reps in the Philippines, and customers on a platform like Instagram that changes its algorithm every single week.
So many moving parts.
So many that you can't mentally model the whole system. A change in one place has unforeseen ripple effects everywhere else.
And that leaves us with the fog itself, ambiguity, the A.
And for me, ambiguity is the most dangerous one.
Why?
Because it's not just that you don't know the answer, you don't even know what the right question is.
Oof.
It's when the data you have could mean two completely contradictory things. Is this new AI tool a massive productivity booster? Or is it a catastrophic security risk that will leak all our intellectual property?
And the answer could be yes to both.
Exactly. The signals are mixed. There's no clear precedent. That is ambiguity.
So if the old maps don't work and we're driving through this fog, we need a new way of thinking.
A new navigation system.
This source material talks about futurist thinking versus just prediction.
No, I have to push back here a little.
Yeah.
Isn't futures thinking just a fancy corporate way of saying guessing?
I love that skepticism. And you're right, if you do it wrong, yes, it's just guessing with a PowerPoint deck.
Which we've all sat through. We have. But true futures thinking, or what's often called strategic foresight, is fundamentally different from prediction.
How so?
Prediction is trying to be a fortune teller. It's saying, in 2028, AI will do exactly X, and our stock price will be Y.
It's a single point in the future.
It's a single high-stakes gamble, and it's usually a losing one.
Because if you bet the whole company on that one prediction and you're wrong, you're Blockbuster.
You're Blockbuster. You're Kodak. You're a case study in a textbook. Strategic foresight is about preparing for multiple futures. Note the plural.
Ah, okay. That's the key. Plural.
The ability to anticipate, shape, and prepare for a range of scenarios. It's not betting everything on one outcome. It's building resilience so that you aren't surprised no matter which future unfolds.
I like that distinction. It's like the difference between betting your life savings on one horse to win the race.
A very bad idea.
Versus analyzing the whole racetrack, the weather conditions, the health of all the horses, and then placing smart hedged bets so you do okay no matter who wins.
Precisely. There's a quote in the text from Dr. H.Schuessler that I think sums this up beautifully.
What's that?
Right now, you are the first leader to operate in today, and no one has faced tomorrow before.
That gives me chills, honestly. It's empowering, but also, yeah, it's a lot of pressure. No one has faced tomorrow before.
It highlights that there is no script. There's no instruction manual from the last person who did your job.
You have to write it as you go.
You have to.
So if we're writing the script, how do we actually do this? Let's get tactical for the students listening. How does a leader scan for these futures? Do you just read the news and panic?
No, panic is not a strategy, though it's a popular one.
I've tried it. Doesn't work.
You have to develop a scanning habit, a systematic way of looking at the world. And you have to be looking for what we call weak signals.
Weak signal. Okay, define that, but give me a real example, not a theoretical one.
A weak signal is an early, often noisy indicator of a trend before it hits the mainstream news. It's the rumble before the earthquake.
Okay, give me one.
Think about remote work. Before 2020, most companies thought remote work was for freelancers or, tech nomads living on a beach.
It wasn't taken seriously in the corporate world.
Not at all. But the technology Zoom, Slack, high-speed cloud access, was already there and getting better every year. The digital nomad movement was growing. That was a weak signal.
So a leader paying attention might have said, hey, distributed teams are becoming technically possible, even if they aren't culturally accepted yet.
Exactly. What if this becomes the norm? And those leaders who saw that signal had the infrastructure ready when the pandemic hit. They transitioned in a week.
And the leaders who ignored the signal?
It took 6 months to figure out how to get everyone a working VPN. They were playing catch-up.
Or look at large language models. I feel like ChatGPT dropped out of the sky for most people in late 2022.
But it didn't. It really didn't. If you were tracking the academic research papers, specifically the Attention is All You Need paper from Google in 2017, you saw the architecture for transformers being born.
That was the weak signal.
That was a huge signal. Then you saw the parameter counts in models like GPT-2 growing exponentially in 2019. You didn't know ChatGPT was coming specifically, but you knew that generative text was about to make a quantum leap.
So you're not waiting for the New York Times headline. You're looking at the research papers, the fringe discussions on Reddit, the GitHub repositories, the weird little startups that seem a little crazy.
You're reading the footnotes.
Yeah.
And you're constantly asking, what if? That's scenario planning.
The second part of foresight?
Right. What if this technology matures in 3 years? What happens to our business? What if it takes 10 years? What if it fails completely? What if it gets regulated out of existence?
You play out these little movies in your head.
You do, so that when reality happens, it's not a shock. You've already rehearsed your reaction.
It's mental rehearsal for disaster or for a massive opportunity.
Exactly.
Which brings us to a huge part of this chapter and something I think every student needs to understand. The hype cycle. Because technology doesn't just improve in a nice straight line, does it?
Oh, never. It's an emotional roller coaster. And if you don't understand the ride, you will get sick and make some very bad decisions.
Let's talk about the Gartner hype cycle. I feel like this is the decoder ring for understanding tech news.
It really is.
But it's not just a curve on a graph, right? It's a graveyard.
It is absolutely a graveyard of failed projects and wasted money. And most of the graves are dug at the very first stage.
The peak of inflated expectations.
That's where the bodies are buried.
This is where everyone says this changes everything. It will solve world hunger, cure cancer, and walk your dog.
All at the same time.
Give me a concrete example. We always hear about the dot-com bubble, but give me something more recent.
Okay, look at the metaverse in 2021.
Oh, yes.
Facebook changes its name to Meta. Real estate in Decentraland is selling for millions of real dollars. Every consultant on LinkedIn is screaming, if you aren't in the metaverse, your business is dead.
I remember brands were rushing to buy virtual land.
They were. It was a frenzy.
Yeah.
That is the peak. The expectation Ready Player One was completely divorced from the reality.
And the reality was, let's be honest, it was cartoon legs and motion sickness.
Right. It was clunky VR headsets and empty virtual worlds. And then inevitably, gravity kicks in, the stock crashes, the mockery starts. The media moves on.
And we enter the trough of disillusionment.
The trough, where the hype dies.
But, and this is the part Dr. Schuessler hammers home, if you're a leader, do you just mock it and walk away at that point?
If you're a bad leader, yes. You say, I told you so, pat yourself on the back, and you ignore it.
But the strategic leader...
The strategic leader looks at the trough and asks a different question. Okay, the hype is gone, but is the utility still there?
Interesting.
Because while everyone was making fun of the metaverse, engineers at companies like BMW and Boeing were quietly building digital twins for manufacturing.
Okay, explain that.
They weren't trying to host virtual parties. They were creating perfect 3D simulations of their jet engines and factory floors to test for flaws before ever building them in the real world.
So they were using the underlying tech, but for practical, boring purpose.
Exactly. And that's the next phase, the slope of enlightenment. The tech starts to find its real, practical use cases away from the media spotlight.
So the slope of enlightenment isn't about the tech becoming cool again, it's about the tech becoming boring.
Bingo. Boring makes money. When a technology hits the final stage, the plateau of productivity, it becomes invisible.
It's just part of the furniture.
It's just how we do business, like smartphones. Or the internet itself. Nobody talks about their internet strategy anymore. It's just strategy.
Peter Diamandis has this fantastic quote that fits perfectly here.
I think I know the one you mean.
Humans tend to overestimate technology's impact in the short term and massively underestimate it in the long term.
That is the hype cycle in a single sentence. We expect magic today, get disappointed when it doesn't happen, and then we completely ignore the revolution that's happening 10 years later.
So, as a leader, you're constantly fighting human nature. The danger of adopting too early, like Google Glass,
Right. Great tech, wrong time, socially unacceptable.
versus the danger of adopting too late, like all those retailers who ignored e-commerce.
It's a tightrope walk.
So how does a leader manage this? Because if I go into my boss's office during the peak of inflated expectations and say, this is all garbage, I look like a Luddite.
You do.
But if I say, let's invest millions, I look naive.
It's emotional management. You have to manage your team's emotions and your own.
What does that look like?
During the peak, the leader has to be the voice of reason. You say, okay, team, this is exciting. I get it. But let's stay grounded. What is the actual business case? Let's run a small pilot, not a full-scale transformation.
Yeah.
You're the brakes.
And during the trough?
During the trough, when everyone's depressed and saying the tech is dead and it was all a stupid idea,
The I told you so crowd is out in force.
that's when the leader has to be the optimist. You say, don't give up. The underlying value is still there. Look past the bad press. Let's keep building, keep experimenting. You're the accelerator.
You're a counter-cyclical emotional buffer.
That's a great way to put it. And you use what the chapter calls trigger-based planning.
Explain that.
You don't make a decision based on emotion or news headlines. You set triggers in advance.
For example.
We aren't going all in on this new technology yet. But if the cost of the hardware drops below X dollars, or if a major competitor launches the product using it, or if the user base hits Y million, then we execute the plan we've already prepared.
I love that. It takes the guesswork out of it. It takes the emotion out. You set the tripwires in advance.
Precisely. It prevents you from getting swept away by the FOMO, the fear of missing out at the peak of the hype.
Okay, so we have the VUCA mindset. We understand the emotional roller coaster of the hype cycle. But to navigate any of this, you need skills.
You do.
And the source material drops a pretty scary statistic from the World Economic Forum.
The 2025 report. It's a wake-up call.
It says 44% of workers will need reskilling within 5 years.
Let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah.
Almost half of everything you know how to do for your job right now will be irrelevant or automated in 5 years.
That's terrifying for a student. I mean, if I'm a freshman at Tarleton State today listening to this, does that mean by the time I'm 5 years into my career, my degree is half expired?
It challenges the entire model of education, doesn't it?
It really does.
We used to think of it like this. You go to college, you get the box of knowledge, you graduate, and then you carry that box with you for a 40-year career.
That box is leaking.
The box is dissolving. The box is gone. If you're relying solely on what you learned in a classroom 5 years ago without constantly updating it, you are obsolete, period.
So what replaces the box?
The learn-it-all mindset. And this is a concept championed by Satya Nadella at Microsoft.
I love this story. Microsoft, for a long time, had a reputation for being a bit arrogant.
That's putting it mildly. They were the know-it-alls. Their internal culture, for years, was about proving you were the smartest person in the room. You had to know all the answers.
Which sounds stressful.
And it stifles innovation. Nadella came in and saw this, and he said, no, we need to shift from being a culture of know-it-alls to a culture of learn-it-alls.
It's a shift to a growth mindset.
It is. It's a fundamental shift that values curiosity over static expertise. It treats humility as a superpower.
Why is that a superpower?
Because if you think you know everything, you stop looking for those weak signals we talked about. You just miss new ideas. You miss the disruption that's coming for you. The learn-it-all is always scanning, always asking questions.
So for our listeners, the students, this means your degree isn't the finish line.
Not even close.
It's the starting gun. But practically, how do you do this? I don't have time to go back to grad school every 2 years. Nobody does.
You don't have to. You need a personal knowledge system. And I don't mean just randomly reading articles when you see them on social media. You need an intentional system.
What does that look like? Break it down.
It could be a tool like Notion or Obsidian or even a simple physical notebook.
Nah.
The tool doesn't matter as much as the process.
Which is?
Step 1, ingest. Be deliberate about where you get your information. Curate your Twitter feed to follow experts, not just memes. Subscribe to specific industry newsletters. Read the actual tech journals in your field.
So quality over quantity.
Absolutely. Step 2, synthesize. Don't just consume it, process it. Write a short summary of an article. Try to explain a new concept to a friend. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it yet.
The Feynman technique.
Exactly. And step 3, archive. Store it in a way that you can find it later. Tag it, link it to other notes, build your own personal Wikipedia.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It is at first,
Yeah.
but it becomes a habit, and the text mentions a crucial part of this, the learning circle.
Which means?
Don't learn alone. That is the fastest way to burn out and fail.
Find a tribe.
Find your tribe. Join professional associations like IE or ISACA. Go to local tech meetups. Find a tech journal club.
I like that idea, like a book club, but for research papers.
For sure. If you are trying to keep up with developments in AI by yourself, you will drown. The field moves way too fast.
But if you have a team,
If you have 5 friends and you each agree to track one specific aspect of it, one person watches ethics and regulation, one watches new coding tools, one watches hardware developments, and you meet once a month to swap notes, you can survive.
it's crowdsourced survival. I like that.
And this all feeds into the reality that career paths are non-linear now. They're not ladders anymore. They're more like jungle gyms.
What do you mean by that?
You might start in IT support. Then you learn some scripting, you move sideways to DevOps, then you get interested in data privacy and policy, and you end up as an AI ethicist.
An AI ethicist? That job title didn't even exist 10 years ago.
Exactly. My point precisely. The transferable skills, critical thinking, problem solving, adaptability, communication, those are the vines you swing on in the jungle gym.
And the technical skills.
The technical skills are just the platform you're standing on at that moment. And you have to be ready to jump to the next one.
This leads us perfectly into the next segment. We keep talking about tech, but the source material makes a really strong point that I think gets lost sometimes.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Tech leadership is people leadership.
It is the absolute foundation, 100%. You cannot lead technology without leading humans. They are inextricably linked.
Let's go back to the opening vignette in the chapter, Maya. She's looking out the window, completely stressed out. Her team doesn't just need Python code from her.
No, not at all. They need confidence.
Yeah.
They need clarity. They need to know that their leader sees the fog but has a compass and a plan to get through it.
And change takes a psychological toll. I think we, as tech people, often forget that.
We do. We get excited about the new tool or the new system.
But when you introduce a new AI tool, some of your employees aren't thinking, cool efficiency. They're thinking, am I going to get fired?
Or, I just spent 10 years mastering the old system, and now I feel stupid because I don't know how to use this new one.
The fear of automation, the overwhelm from new tools, that is real fear.
And when people are operating from a place of fear, their prefrontal cortex, the problem-solving part of the brain, basically shuts down. Their IQ drops.
Yeah.
They can't learn. They can't innovate.
So how do we combat that fear? The text brings up a really famous Google internal study about high-performing teams.
Project Aristotle,
Yeah.
one of the most important management studies in recent memory.
So Google, with all its data, studied everything they could think of. Was it having the smartest people, the best mix of introverts and extroverts? What made the best teams?
And the answer surprised them. It wasn't any of that. The #1 predictor of a high-performing team was psychological safety.
Can you define that for us? Because it sounds a little soft and fuzzy.
It sounds soft, but it has hard, measurable business outcomes. It's the shared belief that you won't be punished or humiliated for speaking up with ideas, questions, concerns, or mistakes.
Mistakes. That's the big one, isn't it?
That's the one. In a VUCA world, you have to experiment. And experimentation, by definition, means failure is not just possible, it's inevitable.
If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough.
Exactly. If your team is terrified that one mistake means they get yelled at or, worse, fired, they will do one of two things.
What's that?
They'll either stop taking risks altogether and innovation will die, or they'll hide their mistakes. And hidden mistakes in a complex system are like time bombs.
So let's play this out. A deployment crashes. The main website goes down on Black Friday. What does a bad leader do?
A bad leader, a leader who destroys psychological safety, hunts for a scapegoat. They storm into the room and scream, whose fault is this? Who wrote this code? Who pushed this button?
And the result of that?
The result is everyone freezes up, they hide the logs, they start pointing fingers, they blame each other, and you can bet that next time no one is going to push any buttons.
No.
Innovation grinds to a halt.
Okay, now the good leader. Same scenario. Website is down. What is the script for building psychological safety?
The good leader holds what's called a blameless retrospective.
Blameless.
They walk in and the first thing they say is, okay, the system failed. I know for a fact that no one came to work today trying to crash the site. So let's look at the process. Why did our system allow this to happen? Did we lack a safeguard? Was the testing environment different from production?
They attack the process, not the person.
100%. They treat the error as a discovery. Oh, we found a flaw in our testing pipeline. Good catch. Let's fix it so this never happens again.
That makes the team feel like, okay, we're in this together. We're solving a puzzle, not dodging bullets.
And that feeling is what builds trust and high performance. And it also leads directly to retention.
Ah, another business metric.
A huge one. There's a stat in the chapter: 94% of employees would stay longer at a company if it invested in their learning and development.
94%. That's almost everybody.
Upskilling isn't just about getting better at the job. It's a powerful signal to your team that says, I value you. I'm investing in you. I want you to grow with us.
The text suggests some practical ways to do this, like a Friday learning hour.
Yeah, simple practical implementations. Give your team 1 hour a week on the clock to just learn. Tell them to go explore a new tool, watch a tutorial, read a tech blog, anything.
It's an investment that pays for itself in loyalty.
And skills.
But what about the skeptics? Every team has that one person who hates everything new. The doctor no. How do you handle them without destroying psychological safety?
That's a great question. The mistake most leaders make is to dismiss them as laggards or dinosaurs.
Right. You just try to steamroll them.
Don't do that. Listen to them. Often, the skeptic is the canary in the coal mine. They might see a real risk that you, in your optimism, have missed.
So they might not be resisting, they might be protecting.
They might be. They might say, this new system won't work with our legacy data because the fields don't match. And they might be right. If you listen to their concerns and address them, you not only make the project better, you might just convert your biggest skeptic into your biggest advocate.
So empathy is a strategic tool.
It's one of the most powerful ones you have.
Now, we have to talk about the should we question. We've covered how to build tech, how to lead people, but there's a critical moral dimension here. The chapter calls it responsible innovation.
And this is moving beyond, can we build it, to the much harder question, should we build it?
And I want to be clear, we aren't just preaching here. This isn't about being nice. This is about risk management.
100%. Responsible innovation isn't some fluffy, feel-good advice. In today's world, it is a critical business strategy.
Why?
Because if you build something unethical or biased or harmful, you risk massive lawsuits, you risk crippling regulation, and you risk destroying your brand reputation, which might be your most valuable asset.
The text outlines a framework for this with 4 dimensions. It's from Stilgo, Owen, and McNaughton. Let's run through those. First is anticipation.
Anticipation is what we discussed earlier, with foresight foreseeing consequences, but not just technical bugs, social ones.
Give me an example.
If I'm developing a new hiring algorithm that uses AI to screen resumes, I need to anticipate the risk of algorithmic bias. Will it unfairly screen out candidates from certain backgrounds because it was trained on historical data?
And if it does, I'm setting myself up for a huge discrimination lawsuit.
That's anticipation. It's looking around the corner for the social impact.
Okay, the second dimension, inclusion.
This one is simple. Who is at the table when the decision is being made?
And who is not at the table?
Exactly. If you are designing a smart city solution for public transit, are you actually talking to elderly citizens about how they will use it? Are you including people with disabilities in the design process?
Because if you only have 25-year-old male engineers in the room,
You will build a product that works great for 25-year-old men and fails for almost everyone else. That's not just bad ethics, that's a failed product.
dimension 3 is reflexivity. That sounds like looking in the mirror.
It is. It's being self-aware as an organization and as a leader. It's about questioning your own assumptions and motivations.
Like asking, why are we really building this?
Yes. Is it just for profit, or does it solve a real human need? Are we building this because it's cool or because it's useful? Are we falling in love with our own solution? It's having the courage to have a devil's advocate in the room.
And finally, the 4th dimension, responsiveness.
This is about what you do when you get new information. It's the courage to change course or even stop a project if you discover that it's causing ethical issues or harm.
Which is really hard to do when you've already invested millions of dollars.
It's incredibly hard, but it's better than the alternative. Responsiveness is about being agile not just with your tech, but with your morals.
This connects back to strategy because ethics is a competitive advantage now, isn't it?
Absolutely. We live in the era of techlash. Public trust in big tech is shaky at best. If you are the company that is known for protecting user privacy, that is transparent about its algorithms, that is committed to sustainability, that is a powerful selling point.
Customers are voting with their wallets and their data.
They are. And sustainability is a huge part of this too. Green IT. We can't ignore the fact that training one of these massive AI models can use as much electricity as a small city.
So energy efficiency is a leadership mandate.
It has to be.
Yeah.
A leader has to care about that carbon footprint, not just to save the planet, but to save money on the energy bill and to meet increasingly strict regulatory standards.
Okay, wow. We've covered the mindset, the cycles, the learning, the people, and the ethics. Now, let's get into the absolute meat of this deep dive.
The blueprint.
Designing your personal plan. Chapter 12 lays out 8 specific steps.
And this is the actionable part. This is where you, the listener, start building.
And I don't want to just rush through these like a checklist. I want to turn this into a mini workshop. If you're listening right now, maybe pause and get a piece of paper or open up your notes app.
Let's do it. This is your roadmap for the next 5 to 10 years of your career.
Step 1, vision and values. This sounds a little basic. I want to be rich. Is that a vision?
It's a desire, but it's not a vision. A vision is your North Star. It's the why behind what you do.
So it's not the what, it's the why.
Precisely. Why do you want to lead technology? Is it to improve patient outcomes in healthcare, using data? Is it to close the digital divide in rural areas? Is it to make banking more secure and accessible for everyone?
Why does the why matter so much? Can't I just be really good at Java and make a good living?
You can, but without a why, the how becomes exhausting. When you are studying for that difficult certification at 2 a.m. or when your big project is failing and everyone is demoralized, I want to be rich, usually isn't enough to keep you going.
You need a purpose.
You need a purpose to pull you through the fog. Your values are your compass when the map is gone.
So define the impact you want to have. Okay, I like that. Step 2, assessment. The gap analysis.
This is the step everyone wants to skip
Why?
because it's uncomfortable. Everyone wants to jump to setting exciting goals. But you can't map a route to a destination if you don't know where you are on the map right now.
The text suggests a personal SWOT analysis. Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
And you have to be brutally honest with yourself.
So how do I find my weaknesses? Because, I think I'm pretty great.
Laughs, of course. 2 ways. 1, ask for feedback from people you trust who will be honest with you. Or 2, and this one is a bit more painful,
Go on.
look at what you procrastinate.
Oh, that hurts. That's a good one.
The tasks you consistently avoid are almost always the things you don't feel competent in. If you always delay writing the project documentation, your written communication skills might be a weakness. If you always avoid the budget meeting, financial literacy is your gap. Procrastination is a diagnostic tool.
And what about threats? In a university context, a threat isn't a competitor, is it?
A threat for a student is obsolescence. If you are an accounting major and you know AI can now automate 90% of entry-level audit tasks, that is a massive existential threat to your 5-year plan. You need to list that and plan for it.
Okay, step 3, SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. We've all heard this.
Yes, but here is the trick from the chapter that I love. Mix them up. Don't just have technical goals.
What do you mean?
A technical goal is, get my AWS Cloud Practitioner certification by May. That's great. It's table stakes. But you also need leadership goals and foresight goals.
Give me an example of a good leadership goal.
I will volunteer to lead a small project for my student organization this semester to practice delegating tasks and managing timelines. That's a leadership goal.
And a foresight goal.
I will read 3 industry trend reports on the future of quantum computing and its implications for my industry by the end of the year, and I will write a 1-page summary to share with my learning circle. That is a specific, measurable foresight goal.
I love that. It forces you to do the scanning we talked about earlier. Okay, step 4, experiences.
This is critical. You can't learn leadership from a podcast entirely, even this one. You learn by doing. You need stretch assignments.
What's a stretch assignment? Exactly.
It's a project or a task that is currently just outside your comfort zone and your current capability. It makes you uncomfortable.
So it forces you to learn.
It forces you to grow. If you are a coder, volunteer to manage the intern project for the summer. If you are in management, try to take a coding bootcamp class to understand the development cycle. Get your hands dirty.
And cross-functional projects are huge here too.
Yes. Go work with marketing for a month. Go sit with the sales team. Understand how the business actually makes money. That is how you move from being a technician to a leader who understands the business.
Step 5, network and mentors.
The old saying is true. Your network is your net worth. No one leads alone.
It's not about just collecting LinkedIn connections though, right?
No. It's about strategic, genuine relationship building. And the text mentions the personal board of directors concept for your career. I love this.
Explain that.
You are the CEO of you, Inc. Every successful CEO has a board of directors to give them advice. Who is on your board?
Who should be on it?
You need a diversity of voices.
Hmm.
You need a senior mentor, someone who has climbed the mountain and can tell you where the pitfalls are. You need peers who are in the trenches with you right now.
Yeah.
And you might need a reverse mentor.
A reverse mentor. What's that?
Someone younger than you. If you are 40, you need a 22-year-old on your board to explain to you how Gen Z actually uses technology, what the new platforms are, what they care about. If you only listen to old people, you will miss the future.
That's a brilliant idea. Okay, step 6, foresight habits.
This is about operationalizing foresight. Don't just wait for inspiration. Schedule it.
Like the text suggests, a future strategy day once a year.
Yeah, I think that's such a cool tradition. Maybe do it on your birthday instead of just cake. Take a couple of hours to review your plan. Ask yourself, where am I? Where is the world of tech going? Do I need to adjust my course?
It forces you to lift your head out of the daily grind and look at the horizon.
Treat your career with the same seriousness that a company treats its annual strategy off-site, even if it's just you and a latte at a coffee shop.
Step 7, health and well-being. This feels like an unusual step in a tech leadership plan.
It's the most important one, and the one students are most likely to ignore. Burnout is real.
For sure.
We glorify the hustle culture, sleeping under your desk, but a career is a marathon, not a sprint. If you sprint the first mile, you will not finish the race.
You can't lead anyone if you're running on empty.
Resilience requires physical and mental health. Sleep, disconnect, exercise, spend time with people you love. This is the foundation of the entire plan. If the hardware, your body and mind, breaks down, the software, all your skills, doesn't matter at all.
And finally, step 8, review and evolve.
The plan is a living document. It is not carved in stone. Don't laminate it.
I like that.
Revisit it at least annually on your future strategy day. Your goals will change. The world will definitely change. Maybe you wanted to be a blockchain developer in 2021, and now in 2026, you realize that market has fundamentally shifted.
It's okay to pivot.
It's not just okay, it's necessary. Change the plan. Agility isn't just for software development, it's for career development.
That's a perfect summary of it. Okay, to bring this all home, let's look at a real-world example. The text uses a case study that everyone knows, Netflix.
The ultimate pivot.
But I want to look at the painful part of it, because that's where the leadership lesson is.
I agree.
We think of Netflix as the streaming giant, but we have to remember, they started as DVD by mail, and they were making a lot of money doing it.
They killed Blockbuster. They won the DVD war. They were the kings.
But Reed Hastings and the leadership team exercised foresight. They saw the weak signal of broadband internet slowly expanding across the country.
They saw that eventually internet speeds would be fast enough to stream video directly.
But they saw this before the tech was fully ready. The infrastructure wasn't quite there yet.
Right. And here is where the leadership courage comes in. They made the terrifying decision to cannibalize their own profitable business DVDs to build the future.
And people forget how badly they mess it up at first. Remember Quickster?
Oh, the Quipster disaster. It's a business school case study in what not to do.
They tried to split the company in two: Netflix for streaming, Quickster for DVDs. They raised prices, and their customers were furious.
They lost 800,000 subscribers in a single quarter. Their stock price dropped 77% in 4 months. The media declared them dead.
That is the cost of the trough of disillusionment. They were a little too early. They stumbled in public. It was incredibly painful.
But, and this is the key, they didn't give up. They apologized, they reversed the Quickster decision, but they never wavered on the core belief that streaming was the future. They weathered the storm.
And the outcome? Blockbuster is a memory in a museum. Netflix is a global powerhouse creating its own Oscar-winning content.
Because they were willing to look 10 years out, take a massive hit in the short term, and endure the messy transition. They navigated the fog.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, for the student at Tarleton State studying for finals right now?
It means you have a choice. You can let the wave of technology crash over you, or you can build a surfboard and learn how to ride it.
We've gone from the fog of VUCA to the clarity of a personal plan. We've talked about scanning for weak signals, managing the hype cycle, learning constantly, leading with empathy and psychological safety, and innovating responsibly.
The key takeaway through all of this is agency. You are not a passive subject of technology. You are an active agent. You have the power to shape it. You can build the future you want to live in.
We really want to thank you for following along with this series. This is the final chapter of the book, but we truly hope it's the beginning of your journey as a leader.
Please, check the description for those resources. We have links to the articles we mentioned, templates for your personal plan, and a lot more.
And take a look at the channel for our other playlists and videos. Keep that learn it all mindset alive. And please, like this, leave a comment, tell us what your North Star is.
We'd love to hear what you're working towards.
Before we go, here is a final reflective question for you to take with you as you step into your career. Are you just predicting the future, or are you preparing to create it?
That's the question.
That's a wrap on this, the final episode of Emerging Technologies and Innovation Strategy. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, every disruption starts with curiosity. Until next time, stay ahead of the curve.